was your name? Backbone and they're coming up. Aired all that for them. You some talking about the stormwater.
Oh, could you continue one? But any, is there anything super, I see a couple that are, but are any pure, oh, you got the Walton County. That one might be a little bit, yeah, I don't know. Oh, yeah, the one you stole off. I went last one.
Through Florida Stormwater class, the 18. One of my operators knows him. He's put him in before. I've had it. Where we are down the old going off twice. Terrible. 20 inches right at my house in nursery. 4 inches at 8 a.m. and it was 20 inches at 4 p.m. My boat was coming right up to my boat, and I was like, it was pretty bad. Lucky, because the bay was coming through nursery from Hogtown. It's coming down the street on 6th Street, flowing down that way. It was pretty cool. Actually saw some fish. It was pretty, yeah.
Try this week to get it. Aren't you going to be Literally ripped from the road. I forgot how we are. Steven.
Good morning and welcome to the May 5th, 2021 Walton County Technical Review Committee. Apologize for a little bit of a delay, but we're going to go ahead and get started. Do we have announcements this morning, Rachel or Karen? Thank you. We'll move right to our item number 1, request to approve the April 7 and April 21 minutes. Do we have any corrections to those minutes?
I don't see any corrections needed. Mr. Chair, I'll motion to approve the April 7th and April 21st, 2021 TRC minutes.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second. Second.
You have a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, the minutes of both of those meetings are hereby approved. We'll move right to project reviews, and I think we have a number of continuous requests here, at least at the beginning of our agenda this morning. Item number 2, the Nautilus Point at Inlet Beach. We have a request to continue to May 19 at 8:30 a.m. in this location. Can we have a motion at the dais?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
This is a major development. It'll get a public hearing at Planning Commission and Board of County Commissioners. So there will be ample time to offer public comments on this particular item. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, Nautilus Point at Inlet Beach is continued to the May 19 Technical Review Committee meeting at 8:30 a.m. in this location. That moves us to number 3, the Santa Rosa Beach Regional POP. This is a minor development reviewed by Tim Brown. We have a request to continue this to June 2nd. And this is a proposed 200-foot telecommunications tower. The event we have, excuse me. Do we have anyone in the audience or on Zoom this morning that wishes to make comments that may not be available to come to the June 2nd meeting? We have one hand up.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning. My name is Davis Pilot. I'm the Director of Critical Facilities for Unity Fiber. I believe you're speaking about our project at the Santa Rosa Regional Utilities site.
It looks like we are. Would you like to offer comments or? Or you
Yes,
just,
I did want to offer some comments. So you said it's related to a telecommunications tower?
that's what the advertising says. 200 square foot telecommunications facility, located
Yeah.
at the regional utility site.
Yeah, that's correct. So
But
it's a facility. It's not a tower.
Building, not
So,
not a tower.
yeah, that's correct. I just wanted to make that clarification.
Yeah, I
And
apologize
I
for that.
also wanted to discuss, I know, one of the things that, had been under discussion in last month's, meeting was related to the setbacks on the leased area. So we've got a lease executed with the underlying landowner, Regional Utilities, whereby, there's a 35 by 50 foot lease space, that is in the corner of the lot of the parcel. And so we are adjacent to the property line on two sides. From what I understand, the setbacks that are being asked for this are for all four sides of our lease boundary area, which I'm not sure if that's correct. I know that we're not planning on subdividing the property or parceling this property off. So the way we've got things drawn out are related to the 25-foot scenic corridor buffer from the right-of-way on the north end. And then on the east end of the property line, we've got a 10-foot setback on that side. But from what I'm understanding, it looks like there's also being a requirement of a 20-foot setback on the rear and the 10-foot on the west side, which are not adjacent to any property lines. I was wanting to find out and see if there's any clarification regarding that issue.
And those things, you need to discuss with the project manager. We're taking public comment, not questions from the applicant, because this item is scheduled to be continued. Please refer those comments to your project manager. Be happy to help you there, but that's not appropriate for today's meeting.
Understood. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to comment on this particular item? Seeing none,
I'll make a motion to continue.
entertain a motion to continue to June 2nd. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Crystal. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Thank you. This motion is carried. This item is continued to June 2nd, 2021 at 8:30 a.m. in this location. That moves us to item number 4, the Bay Grove Motor Lodge and Food Court. We have a request to continue this item to June 2nd also. However, this is a minor development, and we're going to take the opportunity to receive any public comment that I know we've gotten some additional public comments in writing that'll be added to the record. But we'll take a moment to take any additional public comment from anyone that wishes to speak about this particular project. Anyone in the audience this morning? I see one hand up. You'll come to the podium and state your name for the record, please.
Stoyles, S-T-O-I-L-E-S, live on Bay Grove Road. I had a chance to meet with y'all earlier this week, and I appreciate you taking all the comments and concerns from the neighborhood. One item that came up in discussion for concern was parking, and in particular, whether this project was being considered as a motel or as vacation rentals. It has, I think, been discussed so far that this would be considered a motel. However, when I went and looked up the definition excuse me, of a motel and a vacation rental on the Florida statutes, it clearly says that a motel is defined as a public lodging establishment, as in a singular building with one, essential roof with exits to the outside. As opposed to a vacation rental is defined as collectively owned single-family dwelling units or a group of structures per Florida statute. I would respectfully argue that this development is a series of vacation rentals, not a singular motel, and as such, the parking requirement should be 2 per each individual unit, and that the current parking is insufficient.
Thank you for your comment.
Thanks.
Anyone else in the audience this morning wish to make a comment about this proposed development? Anyone on Zoom dialing in electronically? I see no hands up on Zoom about this particular project. So no other public comment. We'll entertain a motion.
Because I'll be out of town that week, the memo says June 2nd, but we'd like it to be continued to June 16th, the second meeting in June.
I think that's appropriate. We need the planner who's most knowledgeable about that from the county in attendance.
I'll go ahead and make a motion. We continue to June 16th.
We'll entertain that motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Donna. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is continued to the June 16? Yeah. June 16, 2021 at 8:30 a.m. in this location. That will move us to item number 10, the Tanglewood 30A Shops. This is a request to approve by minor development order. Tim, if you could give us an update on this project. It was continued from the April 7 meeting. Did we
We're on
skip?
number 5.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I skipped a whole bunch of them, I think.
All right.
Yeah, well, let's back up and pick up number 5, which I somehow skipped over in a whole page. Sorry. I'm in a little too much of a hurry this morning. We are actually at item number 5, the Buffalo Springs Resort. We have a request to continue to June 2nd. It's a major development that'll get public hearings at Planning Commission and Board of County Commissioners. We have a recommended motion to continue to June 2nd. Do we have a motion at the dais?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Donna. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item will be continued to the June 2nd, 2021 TRC at 8:30 a.m. in this location. And now to the next page I skipped. Item number 6, True by Hilton Santa Rosa Beach. This is a major development, but we have a request to continue to May 19.
After discussions with the applicant, we would like to change that to the June 16th meeting, continue it to June 16th.
Continue to June 16.
I'll make a motion. We continue this project to the June 16th TRC.
We have a motion to continue to June 16. Do we have a second?
Second. I'll second.
Second by Donna. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is continued to June 16, 2021 at 8:30 a.m. in this location. That moves us to item number 7, the Greg Orr portion of Santa Rosa Beach. This is a major development reviewed by Tim Brown, and it looks like we have a request to continue also.
After discussions with the applicant, we're requesting that it be tabled and be brought back at a later date.
Okay.
Motion we table.
We have a motion to table. It can come back as soon as it's ready and be re-advertised. We have a motion to table. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Crystal. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any,
Aye. Aye. Aye.
any opposed likewise? Hearing none, the Greg Orr portion of Santa Rosa Beach request is tabled until further advertising. This moves to item number 8, the Churchill Oaks Re-Plat. It's a plat application reviewed by Bob Baranti. Looks like we have a request to continue this one also to June 2nd. Can we have a motion at the dais?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Crystal. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is approved to continue to June 2nd, 2021 at 8:30 a.m. in this location. The next item is item number 9, the Walton County Civic Use Large-Scale Amendment and Zoning Change. This is the Walton County application being reviewed by Stephen Sean. Stephen, if you could introduce it for us.
Yes, good morning. This is a large-scale future land use map amendment and rezoning application submitted by Walton County Planning and Development Services on behalf of Walton County, requesting to change the current future land use designations from residential and conservation to public facilities and institutional, and to change the official zoning map from conservation residential 2-to-1, neighborhood infill, and conservation to institutional on approximately 220 plus or minus acres. The subject lands are located in District 5 and can be identified by the parcel numbers in your revised staff report, which you have in front of you. If I could have that entered into the record, please.
So enter.
So what you see here is a portion of the old Foreman site, which recently went through a land development or a future land use map and zoning change. This is designed for future development to include a number of different components, including a kind of a regional stormwater system, an amphitheater, parking, and some kind of passive recreation use conceptually. Anyways, we are currently seeking a traffic concurrency analysis. We're working with Public Works and trying to get that accomplished prior to Planning Commission. But that is really the only outstanding item that would complete this report. If you have any questions about the specifics of the application, I can try to answer them for you now.
Do we have a map showing the proposed new zoning location, since it's going to be two different?
I'm sorry?
Going to public facilities and institutional?
It's going to institutional entirely. The future land use is public facilities and institutional. The institutional zoning appears to be the right call for the entire site. It should allow for all the proposed uses at this stage.
Okay. Given the layering of uses that the county has plans for on that side, I agree that'd be appropriate. Do we have any questions from anyone on the committee? If not, we'll open it up to the public and like to comment on this particular application. This is the county's proposed future land use map and zoning change for the recently acquired parcels behind, largely behind Publix, between Chad Holly and US 98, adjacent to the parcels acquired by the school board. Is there anyone that wishes to make a public comment about this particular request? See no hands in our room, see no hands on Zoom, so we'll move forward with recommended motion.
Staff would recommend a conditional approval to Planning Commission with a traffic analysis or traffic concurrency analysis coming prior to the Planning Commission meeting.
We do have one hand. Margaret Landry, would you like to speak on this particular item?
Yes, I just have curious about the if everything was decided on at this point, because I noticed this when I was reading it over last night, that there were 21 acres of parking. Is that accurate?
No, ma'am, we're not deciding any of the technical aspects of the development of the site today. We're merely making sure that the future land use map and the zoning map are appropriate for the range of proposed uses that the Board of County Commissioners will consider when a plan is brought forth to develop this particular property.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. We appreciate your comments and look forward to your participation when we get to the development order stage, where we actually describe what's going to be proposed out there.
All
Thank
right.
you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to make a comment? I see no other hands up in the room or on Zoom. We have recommended motion. Do we have a motion at the dais?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Donna. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is approved to conditionally move forward to the next available planning commission, subject to the traffic report being received. And this will move us to item number 10. Tanglewood 30A Shops, minor development reviewed by Tim Brown. Tim, if you can update us on this particular item that was continued from the April 7 meeting.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. This is a minor development order application submitted by Nautilus Civil Engineers requesting approval to develop a 6,233 square foot commercial building with associated infrastructure on 0.8 acres with future land use of commercial and zoning of neighborhood commercial. There's 2 minor planning comments remaining, and there's a comment from environmental concerning the preservation buyout. That's all that's remaining at this point. With that, I would ask the staff report be entered into the record, and I'll entertain any questions the board may have.
I do have a couple of questions. I note that we have a large amount of public comment. I think that some additional comments were received on this since the last meeting. Question about the right-of-way protection zone and the impact on the site. We are bringing forward a request to the BCC to exempt County Road 30A from our right-of-way protection zone language in Chapter 5. And that request is going to suggest that we live within the right-of-way that we have. It doesn't prevent the board from choosing to acquire additional right-of-way, but on 30A, due to the historical nature and the constrained facility and the now new federal designation as a National Scenic Byway, my recommendation is going to be that we don't apply right-of-way protection to County Road 30A, and that we set back from the existing right-of-way, maintaining a robust scenic corridor buffer, our 20 feet there, but that we not impose additional right-of-way protection. How does that proposal, or legislative proposal that's not yet in effect, how would that affect this particular site?
Well, with discussions with Kristen and Steve Hall, because there's a maximum right-of-way for 30A now, it varies, but there's a maximum amount, we were requiring 100 foot for the right-of-way protection as opposed to what their code requires is 130. According to Curtis, he meets that. So it'd be 50 feet. That would be what they would have to meet. And he hasn't uploaded a new site plan, but he says it meets that requirement. Because they had originally not shown that. They had shown the regular setback from the property line, and they were well within, they were right at it. They were right at 25 feet for the front setback. But according to Curtis, they meet this 100-foot as well. But if we didn't utilize it at all, It would still be in the same place. They haven't relocated the building. The building.
Okay, it's not pushing the building further to the west.
No.
That's correct.
Not moving.
With 65 feet, it was going to cause an issue, but now that we went to 50 feet from center line, the right-of-way protection zone would actually be right where the right-of-way line is now.
I was thinking we were in pretty good shape right-of-way wise, at least in this segment. Yeah, just looking for some room. I know we've got the comment about preservation and the connection to the north. And we got lots of comments about protecting the neighborhood to the south. Just looking for some opportunities where we might gain a few feet to help out on that.
Yeah, unfortunately, right now, we're sitting right on the 20-foot front setback as it is. So unless we had a front setback variance, we couldn't do that. Our preservation is all of that front 20-foot as well, so.
What are we doing landscaping wise on the south side, on the Tanglewood side?
So since we eliminated a significant amount of parking, we essentially have about the back 40, almost 40 feet, about 35 feet, which is the west side. That'll all be preservation with a retaining wall. We're actually having to build a retaining wall to do the preservation. And then the far south side, we have a shrub or a hedgerow that screens the loading zone. We have 3 sable palmettos and Indian hawthorn. Have 6 of those to screen the loading zone. And we've got some additional mullygrass. And there's just a couple of clusters of mullygrass and Indian hawthorn that's in the right-of-way. It's not anything that's really required by the code. We just added some additional landscaping along the right-of-way on the south side. And we also have of course, adjacent to the foundation, we have some shrubs as well.
Planting. Is there an opportunity to do some more plantings that may not be required by the code, specifically to enhance compatibility with the residential use?
We could fit probably some taller shrubs potentially. The Indian hawthorns, those will only grow to about, I believe they grow to about 5 feet now, or 4 to 5 feet in height. So we could potentially do some taller ones. There is a zone that we've kind of left out, which is the emergency spillway of the pond. And we also, because we're widening Tanglewood, and we consider it a closed basin based on the feedback from Andrea Ward, we provided retention within the right-of-way for the Tanglewood as well. So we don't want to put the plantings in the bottom of the pond area, but we've got a little bit more area we could add some additional landscaping.
Well, I mean, we're moving a commercial use onto a parcel that hasn't had any use ever. And it's adjacent to residential that's been there for quite some time. Yes, and we are right across the street from a very busy school during school season. But I'd like for us to look at whatever we could do to enhance the compatibility on that south side. In an effort to work with our neighbors. I don't know if that's privacy fence on that side of some kind, and I can't see the stormwater configuration. Realize we got more than what we're showing on the screen right now that impacts that area.
Unless we have a grading plan, we'll not be able to see that.
If we got to, I know we got some other folks that want to speak on this particular project today, but it looks like we're down to just a few comments related to specific land development code standards.
That's correct, and these are actually the exact same comments we had on the other one. The one about the cross-access, this came after we discussed it originally. We know how to handle that. I talked that through with Haley. What she was saying was that there's a minimum width of preservation you should have. So instead of giving them an 80-foot, you can put cross-access anywhere, we will tell them specifically where you can put it to make sure that requirement's met.
Okay. I'd like to see some proposal to enhance the compatibility with those homes on the Tanglewood side. And okay. Thanks, sir. Let's just go ahead and take some public comment. I think we've got a number of folks that would like to speak on this particular item. We'll start with whoever's in the room here. Yes, sir, if you'll come to the podium and state your name for the record and spell your last name, please.
Fantastic. My name is Stephen Barber. It's Barber like a haircut, B-A-R-B-E-R. I'd like to enter these letters into the record, please. I had appeared a couple weeks ago on a similar matter, same developer. It was Sunset Avenue, though, not Tanglewood Drive. And largely the comments that are contained in this letter are the same as the February 2nd letter that was submitted in connection with the Sunset Avenue curb cut and that development. And basically I wanted to reiterate from the outset that the homeowners are not opposed to the development as a whole, or at least not the ones that we represented. They're really just opposed to this specific curb cut, which would funnel the commercial traffic into this residential neighborhood, which, Mac, as you had noted, has existed for quite some time. And these roads, which the folks who would be using this curb cut would be, funneled into, would be using roads that were never intended to suit this kind of traffic. So as we had pointed out before, I'd like to just kind of, quickly reiterate some of those concerns. Basically, when you have more commercial traffic that's going to be put into this residential neighborhood, you're going to have the increased cost to maintain the roadways, which are maintained privately. You're going to have an increased risk of injuries and, God forbid, fatalities. But basically, when you have more people using a road, there's a greater risk for injuries. And in this neighborhood, there's no sidewalks. So if you want to get anywhere, you have to use the roadways if you're not going to be in your car. And then, of course, there's the decreased property value issue. So I don't think it's that far of a jump to say if you had this once quiet neighborhood, which was never had to worry about the issue of, commercial traffic bustling in and out, in addition to the perhaps, Butler Elementary School traffic that's going to be using this maybe as a workaround for the no left turn policy. You're going to experience a little bit of decrease in your property values as well. So there's that, that's an additional consideration. There's also the issue of Tanglewood Drive being what appears to be a purely privately maintained roadway. Sunset Avenue is a county-maintained road, according to the most up-to-date county-maintained road list, which I've attached as I believe Exhibit 2 in this letter. Tanglewood Drive, though, appears to be purely maintained by the residents. There was an easement which appeared to dedicate the roadways in Beachview Heights to the county. However, that easement does not appear to have been accepted properly, and subsequently the county does not appear to have maintained this roadway. So the folks who live there are not only now, having to deal with this increase in traffic, but now they're, effectively the people who maintain the roadway are going to be told how and when to use the roadway that they're, maintaining. So that's another issue as well, which we wanted to point out, which I think differentiates this slightly from the Sunset Avenue issue. So to kind of wrap everything up, I wanted to point out once more that the goal here is not to stymie this development as a whole, but really to just make it more compatible, to use Mac's term, with the neighborhood. So perhaps moving that curb cut in line with Elmo's, or perhaps moving into a different position. I know that we had advocated for the abrogation of the curb cut as a whole, but if it could perhaps be moved to a different place, maybe that's a workable solution. So with that, I'll if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. But that's pretty much our position.
Sure.
Thank you.
For the record, John Roberts on behalf of several homeowners in the Tanglewood Road area. One of the things that I want to nail down again, like Stephen said, is that there is no intent to stymie completely the building here. The issue for us, as Stephen has gone over a little bit, is the idea that this traffic will be funneled out onto a private road at this point. Now, I haven't seen anything that indicates that the county has accepted it. I haven't seen anything that indicates that the county is going to accept it. So we have the problem of these people maintaining a road that now will have to support commercial traffic. And one of the things that I think is most important is that we have an opportunity to work with the developer to figure out some way to be able to either put that traffic directly back onto 38 or keep it off the private road, or at least minimize it as best as work. What I've heard today is it seems like the developer would at least be willing to sit down and have a conversation. I hope that continues to be the case. As we move through the project itself, one of the things that I know my clients are most worried about is safety along those streets. There has been a lot of talk about whether or not the curb cut on Sunset could move and the curb cut on the Tanglewood side could move as well. Hopefully what we'll be able to do if the TRC is interested in passing this with conditions is that there be some homeowner at least engagement so that we can have a reasonable discussion on what safety looks like as that curb cut comes forward. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. I see we have one hand up on Zoom. Do we have anyone else in the audience this morning that wishes to speak in person? Seeing no one in the room, we'll move to Jeff Rice on Zoom. Mr. Rice, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you. I live at 65 Tanglewood, so just across from the proposed curb cut that is problematic, as our two attorneys have just discussed. One thing we want to raise up as well is, this is private land, private roadway, and I don't understand how the right-of-way gives them the right to change the roadbed and to pave unpaved road without, they have a right-of-way, they don't have a right to change the existing roadbed and the roadway. So I'd really like some clarification from you guys as to how that would work legally and appropriately. So that is our largest concern, is this curb cut and the private road. And then regarding the landscaping on the south side, they are building this site up a significant number of feet, which is going to obviously push water back into the road and across the road onto the private properties. And a very tall fence or some very pine trees or something that would grow up, because they are elevating this substantially above grade, and it's a very tall building. So some kind of tall, not 5 or 6 feet tall, as the gentleman mentioned, but something that would actually grow up 20 or 30 feet to actually provide some shielding to that building would be much more appropriate. And I'll rest my comments there.
Thanks,
I would like to hear from the committee there on the thought process for paving a private road by one landowner and not the whole neighborhood that doesn't support this.
We'll let the applicant speak to each of your comments as an opportunity for rebuttal. Anyone else on Zoom wishing to offer comments or ask questions about this particular item? Seeing none. Curtis, would you like to respond, or?
Yes, just real quick, I want to address just a couple of these items, and then Riley Palmer, I'd like to also speak. Riley Palmer is the design build contractor on this, as an owner's representative. The comment about paving the roadway, this was discussed with Public Works in a meeting in planning. At the Sunset meeting, Anna, I believe, wasn't here. Is Anna here today? Okay, Brandy was here. In the meeting we had with Public Works, the discussion we had was that Public Works would accept maintenance of this particular stretch of road. I know there's a process to get that to happen, but that was the discussion we had in that meeting. We also had an attorney's feedback on using the roadway and basically Public Works said, well, we don't maintain it currently, so, but because you are a landowner that has rights to that roadway, just like everyone else, you can access from it, or should be able to, pending legal feedback, and the feedback we got was that is the case. So this project, we propose to widen it and provide a significant amount of paved area. That should also help with the situation with Elmo's and the landscape business, I believe is the other. There are 2 commercial properties accessing off of this stretch already. The stormwater comment, as we said before, we originally designed this for a 25-year storm. This parcel does technically have a bit of a positive outfall, although it's relatively flat. But given the situations we've got here, we went ahead and designed this as a 100-year storm, as we would any closed basin. We provided retention for all the added pavement in Tanglewood, as well as since we revised the site with all the preservation, we're actually significantly over-designed for the 100-year storm now at this point, with both exfiltration and retention on the lot. So we've more than taken care of the stormwater concerns. On the south side, like I said, landscaping, we can beef up the landscaping. If you think it will help with compatibility, we can certainly add some trees and things in there to get more height. As we currently have, most of it's just shrubs that are going to be between 3 to 6 foot of height, but we can certainly do some trees as well. And I guess the last thing that we'll do is, also for access, we did discuss this in the last meeting, and Public Works has reiterated. Public Works, if they had they would rather it be accessed from the secondary road only. This was kind of a middle ground to access from 30A primarily, with the other access being a secondary, so that we didn't have circulation issues internally. We've also provided the cross-access capability to the north. Just as an aside, I do have people that are working on that project to the north currently. That just actually came in this week. So there may be opportunity to connect all of those up so that there's multiple access points through that area. So with that, I'll let Riley speak on the rest.
Yes, my name is Riley Palmer Construction Management, representing the owner of this property. From the onset, even though I believe it was Tanglewood was not required public input, we've requested public input, we've listened to public input, we've made changes on public input, and we're certainly willing to listen to any buffering, landscaping, or changes they may want to encourage. And I encourage them to contact me directly. I know most of them have my name and number, and let's look at the landscape plan we have. Let's look at modification to it that will make them more attractive. Also, we're open to trying to limit the traffic only going out to 30A, so anything that we can suggest in those areas, we're certainly willing. We've been trying to work with all the community. We understand that it's a change. We did not do the zoning. We complied with the zoning, and we're certainly willing to do anything we can to make it a little more compatible in use. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Rachel, do you know if we have an active application on the parcel to the north?
We don't have an application yet. It just came in. Apparently, there was an old development order with vested rights. I believe you actually may have met with those folks. They reached out to me earlier this week that we were going to start looking at that project, and because I'm familiar with what's going on here, we'll certainly take a look at cross-connecting those as well. I don't have the plans. He's supposed to come in today to get the old plans. I believe Cliff actually did those 10 years ago, so we're going to look at that and see. It's going to be a redesign, so we'll see what we can do to cross-connect those.
Yeah, both of those parcels have some commercial entitlement on either side of the entrance to Cypress Dunes.
Mixed use, I believe. I believe it had vertical mixed use.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what it was, but those were intended not to be residential parcels when Cypress Dunes was approved. I think that's Cypress Dunes Phase 2, maybe. Yes, and we're very interested in what opportunities could exist right there for those two adjacent parcels. I do want to make sure that we have
reviewed the legal use of Tanglewood and the access by this particular parcel with our county legal staff.
I think that was reviewed back when Sydney was still here, if I recall. The letter from, was it Mark?
Yeah, Mark.
There was a legal letter from Mark, what was his last name?
Mark Davis?
Mark Davis, yes. We had a letter from him. I think it's uploaded. I think it's been there for a while on Citizen Serve.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to take a look at that, just to make sure we're all pointed in the same direction. Certainly could, yes. One thing I would like to do, given that we do have homeowners represented by legal counsel, related at least to the impacts on Tanglewood Drive, I'd like to provide an opportunity for the applicant to meet with the representatives of the neighborhood to see what compatibility measures could be proposed on the south side to improve the compatibility with the residential portion of that. Recognizing that I think that's Elmo's right across the street also.
Yes.
Which is a pretty active commercial site that predates, I want to say predates our comprehensive plan land development code. So there's been quite a bit of commercial activity in this corner of that neighborhood for a long, long time. But we're proposing to put additional commercial there. The zoning, we're not changing the zoning. The zoning's already in place. But I do want to make sure that whatever goes there, and it's going to go there for a long time, we have the best opportunity, or take the best opportunity to ensure that whatever does go there is compatible with the existing residential use and the existing neighborhood commercial use there for the restaurant on the corner. So if we could continue this to the very next meeting and give the parties an opportunity to meet in good faith and see what could be proposed and bring that back to us in 2 weeks. And if the applicant's amenable to doing that.
Based on the applicant, we've been through this process for months and months, and, we're willing to work with them. We spoke with them. We had a community meeting. We invited them to a community meeting when we didn't have to have one. We've listened to the input. We've done everything we can do, and we'll continue to do everything we can do. But continuous is something that we don't want to do. We've been waiting a long time to get started. We're ready to move forward. My preference is that we go ahead and take action on it today.
I recognize that, and I certainly respect the premise that time is money. But once we approve something here, it's approved essentially for the rest of some of our lives.
One other comment that I would make, my applicant had said, hey, we can limit that access onto Tanglewood, but it's, Public Works is very persistent about wanting that access. So we're caught between two spots. We think it's best to have the access. We want the access, but we were willing to consider giving up the access, but Public Works says we're going to require the access. So we're caught between a rock and a hard spot, and I think all we can really do is try to make the best of that situation, satisfying Public Works, and do the best that we can.
Well, and I would recommend that representative from Public Works participate in these discussions in the next few days also. And just as sort of a caveat, I appreciate the applicant's willingness to take public comment. But I believe probably in our political environment, the Board of County Commissioners would prefer that we take adequate public comment at the Technical Review Committee as opposed to moving this to major development. So we get robust public comment at Planning Commission and Board of County Commissioners, which is going to take a lot longer. Let's try to work this out here. That would be my preference, and I think it would be your client's preference in the context of trying to get to market sooner. Because that is important for the applicant. That is not lost on this committee, that time is money. and this is an application that is an eligible activity under the present zoning. We're not asking for land use change. We're just looking to make sure that proposed neighborhood commercial development has the best opportunity for compatibility with the existing built environment. So with that said, I'll entertain a motion to continue this to the May 19, Technical Review Committee meeting at 8:30 a.m. in this location.
Mr. Chair, just for the record, I'd like to remain recused from this item to prevent any potential conflict of interest, as one of my colleagues is a resident of this area.
So noted.
I'd also like to make one comment about the actual plan revisions. We're gonna continue this for 2 weeks. I know Tim historically has been adamant about us having revised drawings in a certain amount of time before that meeting. That's obviously not gonna happen with this case if we've got to meet with them and then revise drawings. However, I think the revisions themselves are gonna be fairly minor, so.
Well, it might be that if everyone's in agreement with what comes back in 2 weeks, that we could conditionally approve that subject to
Okay.
the drawings being produced,
Okay.
consistent with everyone's agreement. In the interest of working with the applicant, I think we could do that.
Thanks.
Again, we'll entertain that motion to continue this subject to the conditions offered.
I'll make the motion as stated.
Thank you, Donna. Motion by Donna. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Crystal. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is continued to the May 19 TRC to provide an opportunity for the applicant and the neighborhoods to meet along with the Public Works representative to talk about the Tanglewood compatibility. We've got one person raising their hand. We'll take the opportunity to allow them to speak. April Feldman, can you hear us? April, your hand's up. Would you like to speak?
Sorry, that's in, oh, wait, not really. Sorry,
We can hear you.
wrong topic. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, I pushed the wrong button. I'm waiting for a different,
Okay.
itinerary.
All right. Well,
Sorry.
thank you very much then. We have a motion and a second. Did we vote?
We voted.
All right, we voted. Okay, May 19th, 8:30 a.m. In this location. Thank you very much. This moves us to item number 11, South Bay Lumber Modernization and Expansion 2021. Minor development reviewed by Tim Brown. Tim, if you could introduce it for us.
Yes, thank you. This is a minor development order application submitted by Nautilus Civil Engineers requesting approval to demolish, reconstruct, and expand the existing development to include 16,200 square feet of commercial and associated infrastructure in 4 phases on 10.39 acres with a future land use of mixed use and a zoning of village mixed use. This includes the Ace Hardware and the Sellers Tile. It includes both projects. It would allow Sellers Tile to come back with a phase 2 in the future. And they want to be able to keep the existing building open until the new building is built. Then they would tear down the existing building, so 4 phases. There's currently outstanding comments from planning. As of the date of the staff report, did not have comments from fire. Outstanding comments from Dewberry, Public Works, Environmental, and GIS. And there's some outstanding comments for the scenic corridor review. With that, I will ask that the staff report be entered into the record, and I'll entertain any questions the board may have, and of course, the applicant is here.
Thank you, Tim. And so entered. We'll hear from the applicant.
Yeah, so Tim explained it pretty well. This is a project I think the community will be excited about once it is done. That is, I've heard comments in several public meetings over the years that that's one of the unsightliest areas. So that's part of what the owners want to do here is really in addition to expanding, it's to really modernize that store and make it something that South Walton's proud of. As you know, South Bay has been there for a long time, and they do a whole lot of business in South Walton. And the owner has expressed that we're doing fine as we are, but it's time to upgrade, and that's the intent of the project. The combination with Sellers came late in the project where South Bay, this will actually answer some of the Public Works comments as well as engineering. They no longer use the western access on the 393. They've actually closed that gate off, and it's been locked for quite a long time. To better get the delivery vehicles in and out, the owner thought it would be a good opportunity to team up with Sellers. Sellers is going to purchase, I believe it was 120 feet of property to the rear of their existing property. And then we were going to share a stormwater retention facility between the two properties. And South Bay would get an exit for delivery vehicles out of Sellers Tile. And what that will do is it'll actually push the tractor trailers with larger lumber deliveries further away from the intersections, which I think will be very favorable in Public Works' eyes. One comment was about getting something in writing from Sellers. They were a co-applicant, and we are designated on this as their agent. I'll certainly get a letter stating that. And then sometime in the past, I believe actually I spoke to you, Mac, about, and Tim too, as well, as about the potential for having to plat this, and we agreed that there'll need to be some sort of a minor commercial plat to do this transfer of land. So that access easement would be recorded on that plat, and a drainage easement for the shared retention pond also would be recorded on that plat. The engineering comments are fairly simple. Bill and I have already coordinated on one. One was a minor error on our part, so I think engineering is good to go. Public Works' comments, I believe I addressed there that they have not been using the access off 393. The gate's been closed for quite some time, and that will continue. And now the primary egress will be through Sellers for the delivery vehicles, and the ingress will be out of the right turn lane on 98 directly into South Bay. Phasing is quite complicated, so there'll be a lot of involvement with the development owner inspector, making sure we get proper things done in phases for certificate of occupancies and things to shift things around. The intent is that they'll build the new yard in the rear, transfer the lumber from the front to the rear, demo the lumber trees and storage sheds for phase one. That's all of phase one. Phase two, they'll start construction on a new building that wraps around the old retail building. The old retail building will stay in use at that time, and it provides adequate parking for that use. For phase three, we'll actually have a portion of the front parking built, and we'll add some temporary parking in the rear to meet all the required parking for the new building. And then after that, we'll demo the old building, construct the new parking in the front, and then we'll get rid of the temporary parking in the rear so that we're always having the amount of parking we need. Everything can remain open to kind of shift things around. So there'll be some ballet here with the development or inspector and us to make sure that they get everything done they need to do for each phase. Environmental comment was a simple note, so nothing really to speak of there. The one large item we had from planning, and I want to try to get some clarification on today, was that the security building will not meet the requirement for residential. As you know, the VMU, this has been an item of discussion in several projects in the recent year or two. Los Rancheros dealt with it. Greg or Marine dealt with it. I'm not sure if others did. But basically, we've got this requirement on VMU to have residential when it's over 2 or 3 acres. I can't remember the size. 3 acres. So the reason we did the security quarters was to meet this requirement, and I'll tell you exactly where that came from, was Gregor Marine took it to Board of Zoning Adjustments, and they actually recommended that in the Board of Zoning Adjustments, that they meet it with some sort of a security officer's apartment or something like that. So that's why we added that there. We're happy to take any other suggestions. If rezoning is the only option, that's probably what we'll do, but we were trying to prevent going to that extent if we didn't have to. The other comments are simple, pretty simple from planning. That was the only one that we really needed to try to get some clarification on and see where the best route to go.
I think we'll have to discuss that at staff level, number 5, on the planning comments. To how to meet the recreational and the security. The intent of village mixed use is for a mixed use. But that one we will discuss at staff level.
So in that case, I suppose we'll talk about that one offline. All the other comments are very simple to address. I don't see any issues at all there on any of the others. That would be the only one that I would want to get some clarification on before we move forward.
Okay. Since this is a minor development, we're going to take the opportunity to open a public hearing and accept public comments about this particular application. Anyone in the audience wish to make a comment about this application? Seeing no hands up in the audience, and seeing no hands up on Zoom,
I believe the owner is there as well, and just in case anybody has any questions, the owner is on Zoom.
See no hands up at the moment. Well, now we do have a hand up. Yes, ma'am. If you'd like to come to the podium and state your name for the record and spell your last name, please.
Bailey, Bailey. I have a question about is there going to be a right turn lane when you get through developing? That's a lot of the problem on 98 is there are no right turn lanes. And that's, people are zipping along and then all of a sudden somebody wants to turn right and you've got people backing up and accidents. So will there be an ingress?
Yes, ma'am. That right turn lane was actually built when the Hardee's was built. It's already on this property.
Okay. So, but you had said that you were going to make the entrance further down by.
It's an exit. It's an exit only. It's only for delivery vehicles. There's no entrance to the development there. It's still the same entrance.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else have a question or wish to make a comment? Seeing none, we'll close that part of the meeting. Any questions from any member of the TRC on this application? Jim, what's your recommendation?
Depends on whether you want to hold it up for comment number 5. The rest of the comments are minor, I think, easily resolved, but that one's a little more complicated.
Well, we're going to have to resolve the comment one way or the other, either at staff level or by proposing a land use change.
Well, the other comments are minor, so with that being the case, I would recommend that we go ahead and approve it and move it forward, contingent upon the resolution of these comments. It's in the scenic corridor, so it would go to the design review board next.
why don't we do just that? Conditionally approve it, subject to the resolution of that particular item prior to it moving forward to DRB.
Okay.
Because I didn't see anything else on there that was a showstopper other than that one comment right there. We have recommended a motion to conditionally approve this item and move it to the Design Review Board. Next review step, subject to resolution of outstanding staff comments and in particular planning comment number 5.
Moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is conditionally approved to move forward to the Design Review Board, subject to the conditions offered. And that will move us to item number 12, Alice Beach, Block DD, lots 4 through 17, request to approve by minor development order. Tim, if you could introduce this one for us.
Yes, thank you. This is a minor development order application submitted by Innerlight Engineering requesting approval to develop 14 single-family lots and associated infrastructure within Block DD of the Alice Beach PUD on 1.97 acres with the future land use of mixed use and a zoning of T&D. Currently, there's outstanding comments, some minor outstanding comments from planning. Have not received fire comments as of the date of this report. And looks like everyone else has, well, didn't receive comments from mosquito control or the school board. There was a comment from GIS, but in speaking with Innerlight, apparently they're going to redo this. It's going to go from 14 lots to 11 lots. The comments are minor, but I'll let David speak about it. But my understanding is they're going to redesign this request. With that said, I'd ask the staff report be entered into the record, and I'll turn it over to the applicant.
Thank you, Tim. It's so entered.
Thank you, Tim, and good morning. I'm David Smith with Innerlight Engineering. And as Tim presented, the comments are very minor, but we are making a minor shift to the plan and making that minor change. It is minor, so our preference would be obviously to be able to move forward and just coordinate with staff on the resubmittal to do that. The roads are generally staying in the same place, but it's a minor change and a reduction. So everything else, as Tim presented, was minor. So I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, I agree. The comments are minor, and we've got Community Development District here underneath all of this too, so the public impacts will be minimal. Any other questions from members of the board? Mosquito control comments? This is a minor development. We'll take the opportunity to open a public hearing and invite any comments. Anyone wish to comment on Alice Beach, Block DD, lots 4 through 17 application? See no hands in the room. I see no hands up on Zoom. It kind of rhymes.
My recommended motion then would be to approve it contingent on the resolution of the comments and move it forward to the development order.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Crystal. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this one is conditionally moved forward to DO, subject to satisfaction of all outstanding comments. Thank you, David. This moves us to item number 13, the Starkey 30A commercial. This is a minor development order application reviewed by Stephen Shawn. Stephen, if you could introduce it for us.
Yes, sir. Good morning again.
Sure.
This is a minor development order application submitted by Jenkins Engineering Incorporated on behalf of Butterfly Services of Northwest Florida, Inc., requesting approval to develop 1,850 square feet of commercial, retail, that includes a 150 square foot restaurant with a living space on the upper floors with the future land use of mixed use and a zoning category of village mixed use. Property is located in District 5 and identified by the parcel number in your staff report. If I could have that entered into the record, please.
So entered.
Thank you. There are some outstanding comments, planning comments. We have not received South Walton Fire Department comments. In speaking with the applicant, there's nothing here that can't be resolved moving forward. The agent is here if you have any questions for them. If you don't have questions for me, I'll turn it over to them now.
Is this the location where one of the cottages from Whiskey Bravo is going to be moved to?
I do not know the answer to that.
Maybe the applicant can share that with us.
Maybe.
Anyone else have questions for Stephen? We'll take the opportunity to hear from the applicant. Thanks, sir.
Hi, Christy Jones with Jenkins Engineering, Jones. We have had a chance to review the staff report. They're all minor. We've already prepared the documents to come back and be for resubmittal to you guys, pending your questions. And in respect to your question, it is not that same parcel that you're referring to.
Okay.
So I can answer any questions that you may have about it.
Any questions from TRC for the applicant?
I don't have any, Mr. Chair. Well, I guess my only question would be, I think planning staff had a request for one additional parking space. Do you feel like that we'd be able to make that happen without?
There was actually an error with respect to the square footage for the restaurant. It should have been 150 square feet to limit it to one space instead of 1.1, which put us over. So we have reduced that on the new site data table, and so we'll still be at the 8 spaces that we originally had.
I can't see the landscape plan from where I'm sitting. What are we doing to the 30A scenic corridor buffer? Or what are we going to do?
I apologize. I'm going to defer to Jamie one moment.
I think this is on. Yeah. A portion of it, oh, sorry, I'm loud today. Jamie Eubanks, EUBANKS with Jenkins Engineering. Mac, a portion of it, probably about 33%, about a third of it, it's going to be left. There's a little bit of preservation in that western side. And then the rest was just plantings, to be honest, to meet the code minimums. We haven't added anything additional. But that's something we're happy to discuss, obviously.
We did add some additional language back in 2019 about the 30A scenic corridor. Changed it to a buffer from a setback. It used to say maintain existing vegetation. It now says restoration, I think.
Okay. And we're happy to agree to that. That's.
I mean, that's something, a robust restoration of the 30A scenic corridor buffer, certainly in light of our recommendation that we're not going to require additional right-of-way protection on scenic corridor, might be a pretty good trade-off.
Okay. Yeah, we'll redo the landscaping plan and get with Stephen, but we don't have any objection to that.
That would certainly be welcoming to those folks that traverse 30A and might likely enjoy business. So we appreciate that. Anyone else Thank you, ma'am.
Absolutely, thank you.
We'll see if anyone wants to speak on this particular item. This is a minor development. We'll take the opportunity to invite any public comment on this particular item. Anyone in the room wishing to comment on this project? Anyone on Zoom? I see no hands up on Zoom. Anyone on Zoom wishing to comment? See some smiling faces, but no hands up. We will move forward with recommended motion.
Staff would recommend approval condition on satisfying any outstanding staff comments.
So moved.
We have a recommended motion, and do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Donna. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is conditionally approved to move forward to development order, subject to satisfaction of any outstanding comments and addressing our scenic corridor landscaping. Thank you very much. We'll move to item number 14, the Point Washington Medical Clinic. This is a minor development reviewed by Stephen Shawn. Stephen, if you could introduce it for us.
Yes, this is a minor development order application submitted by Jenkins Engineering on behalf of Point Washington Methodist Church, requesting approval to construct a 4,643 square foot medical office on .62 plus or minus acres with the future land use of mixed use in a zoning district of traditional neighborhood development. The project is located in District 1 and identified by the parcel numbers in the staff report, which I would like entered into the record, please.
So entered.
Thank you. There are a number of outstanding comments throughout the various departments. We have not received South Walton Fire comments as the date of publishing. Some of these are a little just clarification, points of clarification, just need to add some additional information. But if you've got any questions, I'm happy to answer them, or I can turn it over to the applicant.
We've addressed any items that might be in the Point Washington neighborhood plan. This looks like that's within the plan area.
I believe so.
Okay. Anyone from TRC have questions for Stephen? Okay, we'll take the opportunity to hear from the applicant. Thank you, Stephen.
Morning again, everyone. Jamie Eubanks with Jenkins Engineering. We've reviewed the comments. Everything, as Stephen said, I think is mostly clarification, a few minor tweaks to a sidewalk and things like that. And we did look closely at I guess it's not in your packet, but we did look closely at the neighborhood plan. One of the things we've really done a significant job on this, thanks to the clinic, is saving the trees that are on site. There's a number of 36-inch oaks, large oak trees this has been designed around. That's one of the reasons you see the rear of the site's pretty open as well. So,
thank you very much for doing that.
with that, I'll take any questions if you have any.
This is one of the only locations in our county where the county does protect some heritage-type trees. We appreciate working with the neighborhood and the neighborhood plan to preserve those.
And just as a point on that, Mac, that's one of the reasons that they are actually doing a shared parking agreement with the church across the street. As the church has excess spaces during their normal Monday to Friday business hours, there'll be a sidewalk and a crosswalk across the street. But that's one of the reasons you only see 4 parking spaces, mainly handicap on that side, is to preserve those trees.
We do have the authority granted by the Board of County Commissioners to waive certain application fees. And I hope we've taken that advantage on this particular project. This is a minor development. We'll take the opportunity to hear from members of the public. Anyone in the audience or on Zoom wishing to make a comment, if you would raise your hand. See no one in our room. Anyone on Zoom? See no one on Zoom either, so we will close that portion of this morning's hearing, and we'll entertain a recommended motion.
Staff would recommend approval condition on successfully satisfying all outstanding staff comments.
We have a recommended motion. Do we have a motion at the dais?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Crystal. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is conditionally approved to move forward to development order subject to satisfaction of outstanding comments. And that moves us to item number 15, the preserve at Point Washington. Some minor development reviewed by Bob Baranti. Bob, if you could introduce it for us.
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is a minor development application submitted by David Forstrom, PE, on behalf of Howard Dolgoff. Request to develop 19 townhomes and 1 bed and breakfast on 6.33 plus or minus acres with a future land use of mixed use in the zoning district of small neighborhood. The property is located on the right-hand side of the intersection of East Point, Washington Road, and North County Highway 395. It can be identified by the parcel number in the staff report. Mr. Chair, there are still outstanding comments. Their public engineering and public works, Anna Hudson, have expressed their desire not to move this forward until these comments are addressed. Public Works has questions on the location of the sidewalk and sidewalk of the comment, and also the grading drainage plan discharge. Also, Newberry has commented that numerous comments have not been addressed. I feel that we need to have these comments addressed before the project is given a recommendation of approval, conditional approval.
Okay, thank you, Bob.
Can I enter staff report and record?
Sure. Since this is a minor development, we will hear from the applicant, then we'll take some public comments, and then we'll have a recommended motion.
And the applicant is here, sir.
Yes, sir.
For me out there or here?
Come to the podium, that's fine.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
Happy Cinco de Mayo, everyone. Going over the comments, the planning and development service comments, there are no design issues, they're all notational comments, which I have addressed. Benefit title to the survey, that's going to be uploaded today. Comment about utility addresses, they're all on the cover sheet. FEMA data on the survey, surveyor will update that today. We were missing one parcel number on the site data table, that's been uploaded last night. We did also revise to add the notation of the 1 bed and breakfast. I did provide a single-page site plan separate from the combined plans. And then the question on the fill, I showed the calculations that the fill would not exceed 1 foot over the site. So all the planning and development service comments are primarily notational in nature. They're not of a design, and I feel like we have addressed those. The public works comments, I did not see those yet. I guess it came in yesterday, so I can't really comment on that. But last comments, there was a question about the sidewalk, so I'll, defer to the TRC. It may be something minor we can address without going to another TRC, but I would defer to y'all decision on that. On the engineering comments, there were 2 comments. The first one was regarding access to the pond for maintenance in the rear. There are water meters in the area, and our response to that is we will specify traffic-rated composite lids for the water meters, which Regional Utilities recommends. So there will be no issue with damage to the water meters. And the other comment is on our C sub N coefficient for the pervious concrete. And I responded to that with something from the Florida Highway, Federal Highway Administration. Our mix, design mix, is the same as the Federal Highway Administration for pervious concrete. I understand, but I'm not 100% sure that Andrea Ward has approved this before. And so for the pervious concrete, because the drainage is so great, anywhere from 100 to 1,000 inches per hour, we use a runoff coefficient for the characteristics of the underlying soil. So other than the public works comments, I feel like we've addressed the other comments. I would prefer it be approved conditionally since it doesn't have to go to the planning commission, but obviously I'll defer to your recommendation and be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dave.
Sure.
I do have one question. Where's the bed and breakfast part?
It is on I just uploaded it. It's one of the townhomes, townhome number 1. I revised the plan last night and made a notation that's going to be the bed and breakfast unit, which structurally is the same as a house. A bed and breakfast structurally is a house. It's just the use will be bed and breakfast. In this case, single family attached structure. So you may not have that. It's unit number 1. We were required to do that based on the zoning.
What are we doing for parking for the bed and breakfast use?
On the revised plans, bed and breakfast is limited to 2 guests and 1 car. So there's already 3 parking spaces there, so it's adequate parking. We would prefer not to have to do a bed and breakfast, but we understand the zoning requires 5% commercial.
Okay. David?
Sure.
That was my question.
I have a question.
Yes.
My operator talked to me this morning. We do have 2 mosquito control ditches that been there, one runs west, it runs north-south of that property, and one off Nellie it borders the whole plat there.
Yes, sir.
We do maintain them, and for drainage they've been there for.
Mm-hmm.
We do have one issue. My operator told me the silt fences are starting to fall out and we're getting washouts that we're gonna have to maintain.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as we have an easement where we can maintain and get our mowers.
You talking about maintaining the retention pond?
No, the ditches that border that property. There is a buffer, I'm just saying.
Okay, yeah,
The silt fences are, I think from the rains and stuff, they're falling down, they're causing some washouts right now.
I didn't know we had any silt fences on our site, but if there's any type of easement you need for access, we can incorporate that into our plans for maintenance.
I think it's it's a 25-foot from the ditch buffer.
Okay. I mean, if you just let us know, we'll make sure that's incorporated on the plan, shown on the plat also.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, David. We'll take the opportunity to invite any public comment on this particular application. Anyone in the room wishing to speak on this particular application? Anyone on Zoom wishing to speak on this particular application? I'm seeing no hands up. I see one hand up. Margaret Landry. Can you hear us, Margaret?
Yes. Yes, I just had a question, and I may be misunderstanding it, but it looks like it's 6 acres, right? And are 4.97 of those acres in wetlands?
It would appear so, yes.
So where are those going to be mitigated?
They're not going to be impacted. There's no mitigation required if there's no impact.
So they're gonna put 19 townhomes on 1 acre?
On the upland portion of the property.
Okay, just seems like a lot. All right, that was my question.
And our county encourages clustering of density out of the wetlands to protect the wetlands and to avoid any impacts on those wetlands. And we've got a long history of promoting the protection of wetlands through these kinds of policies.
Right, I understand that. It just seems like a lot of density for 1 acre. But that's, you know, that's how it can be done. That's fine. I was just curious.
Yeah, overall, it still is 3.16, I believe, is in the project analysis.
Okay,
For the
all
whole
right,
project.
thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Anyone else wishing to comment? See no other hands up. We'll entertain a recommended motion, Bob.
Chair, I make a motion to continue to the next TRC meeting. I have to defer to my request from my professional engineers. They both stressed that they want to be able to review and see what they've asked. If the project was updated last night, the odds are it hasn't hit me yet, or if it has, I was here in the meeting. I just would like to, both Public Works and Dewberry stress that, and I think we should honor that.
Thank you, Bob. I would concur with that, and we would entertain a motion to continue to May 19th.
Mr. Chair, just to add publicly on this, I see the response for both of my comments. The first one, the access, I mean, I guess we can work through that. There is like a 3-to-1 slope on that side, so I don't really, where the meters are, don't really see how any equipment can get back there to maintain the retention pond. But in regards to the using a curve number 39 to estimate runoff and design your stormwater pond for pervious concrete, I read through the document that was provided, and while there's data and they do this type of research everywhere to try to create new and innovative designs, I don't agree with it. And so with that being said, I'd like to see something else proposed for their stormwater design that works in meeting the county code.
Okay.
I believe this has been approved before by Andrea, but I can't be sure. But I'll be happy to talk to you offline about what you would like that would satisfy your requirements.
I believe you, based on my comment here, you can see, I mean, we've approved pervious pavement before in the county. However, people have used a much higher curve number to estimate the runoff, and they've also had storage beds underneath the pervious pavement. In regards to void space, you're proposing this pervious concrete that drains at a high rate that doesn't take into account the slope of the concrete, as well as you have a compacted subgrade. So how does you said the underlying soils, well, the underlying soils are compacted 98% density. They don't flow just like your concrete flows. So then where does it go?
Understood. If you provide me a curve number you're comfortable with for that design, I will use that, rerun the drainage calculations, and make any required design improvements or increases accordingly. Or if we could, discuss it.
ER 55 or the Swanee River Water Management District Applicant's Handbook number 2 has values you can choose from.
Okay. I will select another value, and then I'll run it by you and see if it's acceptable. Okay.
Recommend a motion to continue for 2 weeks?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, subject to addressing all these outstanding comments and resolving the issues. We'll entertain a motion to continue to May 19, 2021.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Donna. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed likewise?
Hearing none, this item's continued to May 19 at 8:30 a.m. in this location to provide the applicant and staff an opportunity to meet and address some of these issues. This moves us to item number 16, Walton's Landing plat. It's a plat application reviewed by Bob Baranti. Bob, could you introduce it for us?
Yes, Mr. Chair. This is a major plat application submitted by Innerlight Engineering on behalf of Forrester Real Estate Group Incorporated, requesting to plat 73 single-family lots, 98 townhomes, and associated infrastructure on 38.22 plus or minus acres. It's a future land use and zoning district of village mixed use. The parcel is located in District 5 and can be found on the northwest corner of Noe Drive and Chad Hawley Road, and is identified by the staff, by the parcel number in the staff report. Mr. Chair, we have outstanding comments from the floodplain manager, from environmental planner, and the county surveyor, both for the engineering comments and for the surveyor comments. Everything else they have addressed. The applicant is here. I'd like to turn it over to the applicant to make his presentation, and may I enter the staff report into the record, please?
You can, but one thing I would like us to add to the staff report is the development order that approved this development.
Yes, sir. I can get that. We can get that added.
That needs to be billboarded on all of these plat applications going forward, because the plat application is the final step. The project's already been approved. We're
Yes, sir.
merely making sure that what has been being platted for subdivision complies with both the development order and Chapter 177
Yes, sir.
regarding the platting.
We can fix that. We just revised it the other day. We can fix that. It's
I-
very simple.
I
Add it.
think that would improve our transparency and make sure that the public understands that once we get to the platting stage, the development order has already been approved. The development has already been approved. This is merely making sure we comply with the development order and Florida statutes related to recording a plat.
Yes, sir. We'll make that happen.
But let's figure out how to put that very close to the front of
It'll happen today.
that on the front page.
Yes, sir. That'll be an
That-
easy fix.
And since these go to the Board of County Commissioners, it will be much more informational for them once they get there, recognizing the development's already been approved, and we're merely approving the final subdivision of the land.
Yes, sir. That's a point well taken. If you don't have any questions for me, can I enter the staff report in the record?
Sir, thank you very much.
And turn it over to the agent?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Bob, for the record, I'm David Smith with Innerlight Engineering, and we are platting consistent with the approved development order that was issued for Walton's Landing. And the comments, there's only basically 3 comments, and they're all note related. Remove, I guess, a division from your name, remove note 3, and then add a note under the floodplain management comments. So they're very minor. So we would respectfully request to move forward, please.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Yes, I would concur. Those are very, very minor comments. But certainly speaking on behalf of the applicant's agent, both the applicant and staff run a gauntlet when we are approving these projects. So I just want to provide clarification for the public. When we've already approved a project and we're just getting to the platting stage, this is the very minor final step. But the development has already been approved. Sometimes that's a little bit confusing for our public. And I'd like to just, going forward, provide additional clarification to enhance our transparency. So thank you very much. We'll entertain a recommended motion.
Mr. Chair, due to the fact that we haven't gotten anything from Scott, I would just like to err in the side of caution and continue it to the next TRC to give Scott time. I've already contacted him. Get his comments, so there's nothing majorly outstanding.
We can hear from the applicant on that request also.
Very respectfully, because I will, certainly understand Scott hasn't had a chance to provide his comments, but we would respectfully request to move forward. And I will condition, if there's any major comment, because this is, as you mentioned, Matt, consistent with the approved development order, everything's the same, but if there's any major comment, I would certainly come back if I need to. But, I understand he hasn't provided his comment. I'm certainly understand Bob's perspective on that, but we would respectfully request to move forward if possible, please.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
I certainly respect the point that we don't have surveyor comments, and we absolutely have to have those because surveyor gets to sign this document also. Given the minor comments and the consistency of applications from this particular engineer, I would recommend conditionally approve this, subject to the review of the county surveyor and addressing any outstanding comment.
I can change my motion to that. I agree.
We've got lots of projects on our plate right now, and if we can move one forward that will resolve itself in a few days, I think that'd be in the best interest of staff, the applicant, and the public.
I agree.
So that would be my recommended amendment to your motion.
And I concur.
Thank you, sir. Then we have a recommended motion from staff. Do we have a motion at the dais? Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Landry, yes, ma'am. You'd like to make a comment?
I just am curious, because I'm not understanding by the look of the map. I'm looking at Zoom and not at the map. Is this the Horton development, which is on Chat Holly and Nellie, where they've done a lot of clear cutting?
Where they have done clearing consistent with their development order. Yes, ma'am, it is that development.
Oh, okay,
And
all
the
right.
clearing,
But
the clearing that has occurred is consistent with their approved development order. And all of that is supposed to happen before we get to this stage. So those things are happening in the right sequence. But thank you very much for your question.
All right, and the floodplain management and the environmental planner, it's a non-comply? Is that right?
It's because they have comments still up.
Yeah, those are outstanding comments. Until those comments get addressed, those boxes don't get moved over to the X doesn't get moved to the comply box until those comments have been satisfactorily addressed. And that is the motion that it's being moved forward, subject to satisfactorily addressing those outstanding comments.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. See no more hands up, so we will move forward. We have a recommended motion. We have a motion at the dais.
I'll conditionally motion to approve this project as stated by Mr. Bronny.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Likewise? Hearing none, this item is conditionally approved to move forward to the BCC, subject to satisfaction of any outstanding comments and the surveyor review.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Bob. And that will move us to item number 17, the Water Sound PUD Amendment. It's a major development reviewed by Renee Bradley. Renee, if you could introduce it for us.
Yes, sir. Good morning. This is a major development order sorry, let me get where I'm supposed to be here. This is a major development order application submitted by O'Connell and Associates Consulting Engineers on behalf of the Water Sound Beach Club LLC. They're requesting to add a half acre from the Prominence Plan Unit Development in DRI to the Water Sound PUD. The proposed property is to be added. It's located in District 5. And the parcel IDs identified in your packet. We'd like to enter the staff report into the record.
So entered. Yes, ma'am.
So as part of this modification that they're doing, they're requesting to add an equivalency matrix That's the conversion and calculation for land uses within the plan unit development order as part of this proposal. They also had, by means of map changes, had requested to go to Coastal Village, which is what Water Sound Plan Unit Development. We've determined that they need a land use change for that change as well. And that is basically, there's very minor comments from planning based on that, just some corrections to the map. And we don't have any other outstanding comments at this time. So unless you have questions for me, sir, I will hand it over to the applicant.
Thank you, Renee. Anyone else have a question for Renee? Being none, we'll hear from the applicant.
John Nash with O'Connell and Associates Consulting Engineers. Renee explained it. The one thing about the zoning is we're not proposing a rezoning at this time. The map's getting updated to reflect the current zoning of that land, which is traditional neighborhood development. We're also going to clarify in our application that this portion of land is being used to reconstruct the entrance to the Watersound Beach Club. It's going to have a new gated entrance, possibly a guard shack, and a portion of that land is needed to facilitate that project. But there's no current plan to put any type of development on that parcel at this time. So with that, the current zoning doesn't appear to be an issue from my understanding with staff. I'm happy to answer any questions y'all got.
Yeah, let's talk about the zoning change. The proposed use is an entrance facility and a security gate?
Correct. It's going to use a very small corner of this parcel, actually, but it's going to get into it. There's no development planned for that parcel.
And it's presently T&D already? Because this was all part of Prominence in the beginning.
What I should mention, there's a separate PUD application to remove this from Prominence, and this is subject to that application as well.
Okay, I have no further questions. Anyone else have any questions about this particular development? This will get a public hearing before the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners once we get to those stages as a major development. We'll take the opportunity to invite any technical comment about the application from any member of the audience or anyone on Zoom. Anyone wishing to offer a technical comment or ask a technical question? We have one hand up on Zoom. Mr. Kevin Kern, can you hear us?
Yes, sir, I can. Kevin Kern, 104 Grace Point Way. I just want to comment that removing this parcel from the Prominence PUD does have a negative impact on the upcoming item number 21, since they are kind of linked together. And that's, I think, the only comment I want to make is to reserve that to make the board aware of that.
Okay, thank you, sir. And Renee, this is a question for you in response to that comment. What is the relationship?
This would have to be a conditional change, so we would have to approve the Grace Point Prominence Amendment for the Plan Unit Development and the DRI before we could. So basically, this project needs to come behind the other two. And the impact that he's talking about, as you may recall, we did do an amendment to the plat for Phase 1 for that area where we removed those two single-family lots out of that plat. So that condenses that area down some. And in the public comments, I do believe it was Mr. Kern that did some map drawing where he actually kind of overlaid what he feels, well, what the proposal for Grace Point's going to be in the future after this amendment. Of course, we're not looking at that technical aspect today. We're looking at just making the changes conceptually to the DRI and the PUD. But for this, we definitely have to condition this, that this has to be removed from Prominence prior to accepting it for water sound. That would be a condition of approval.
But this is Water Sound Beach Club.
Oh, well, yes, sir.
Water Sound Origins Phase 7?
No, sir, this is Water Sound Beach Club. This is Water Sound PUD. Water Sound Origins is Water Sound North, which is totally, that's part of your base acre plan.
I'm sorry, I think he was referring to items 20, 21, and 22.
Yes, sir, he's talking about the
Not
Prominence
item
Plan
18.
Unit and DRI Amendment,
Yeah, I was just
sir.
trying to understand the relationship between number 18 and number 17.
Yeah, 17 and 20, whatever the last two are.
Yeah, 21 and 22. Okay.
Right. It's a lot to keep up with.
Well, we probably should have moved those next to each other, just for
I
clarity.
think in the future, when we go to Planning Commission, we need to have those two ahead of this
So
one.
they're
So, yes,
companions
sir.
on the agenda. I agree.
Absolutely. Apologize.
Okay, good idea. Any further questions about this particular item, number 17, the Water Sound PUD amendment? Hearing none, we'll entertain a recommended motion.
I would move this project forward to the Planning Commission contingent on the Grace Point approval as well and satisfaction to all comments, which are planning comments.
With the companions. We have a recommended motion. Do we have a motion that dies?
So moved.
Have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
And we have a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is approved to move forward to the Planning Commission along with those companion items, subject to outstanding comments. Since those aren't right next to each other, let's just keep things in order here for Karen's benefit. We'll move to the Water Sound Origins Phase 7 major development application.
Yes, sir. This is a major development order application submitted by Innerlight Engineering Corporation on behalf of the Water Sound Company, LLC. They're requesting approval to construct 76 single-family lots and associated infrastructure on 60.53 acres with future land use of mixed use and zoning of a Bay Walton Sector Plan Village Center. This project is located in District 1 and is identified by the parcel IDs in your packet. I'd like to enter the staff report into the record, please.
So entered.
This project we have only 3 outstanding comments from planning. There is also a couple of minor comments from there is some cross-drain information here. Don't see any transportation comments other than there was an error on the lots, so that needs to be corrected. We do have floodplain comment. Environmental comments outstanding. Seems like a clarification some on the environmental. And that's all I have for you. So unless you have questions of me, I'll turn it over to the applicant.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll hear from David.
Thank you, Renee. And for the record, again, I'm David Smith with Innerlight Engineering. And as Renee presented, the comments are minor, and so we definitely can get these addressed and would certainly recommend to move forward. One of Haley's comments regarding the RGP EMA, I did want to clarify, that has been extended, so we'll make sure we get an updated copy of that permit to her. And other than that, they're all minor comments, and we would respectfully request to move forward.
I see we're gonna need a flood study.
That's a comment that we do on all the phases of origins, so we will address that comment.
Anyone else have a question for David related to this particular development? I know we got some members of the public that would like to speak. And we'll give you an opportunity to address that.
Thank you.
I see no hands up in our audience. This is a major development. It'll get formal public hearings at the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners once it reaches that stage of the application cycle. This morning, we can take technical questions or technical comments related to the application. I see no hands up in the room, and I see one hand up on Zoom, Mr. David Grady. Can you hear us, sir? David Grady, you're up. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me now?
Good morning. Go ahead, sir.
Good morning. Thank you. I live on Long Landing and appreciate the opportunity to comment. I'm a little concerned about adding to the density of water sounds at this point until some issues are addressed, primarily the entrances and exits to the subdivision. Currently, there are only two ways to get in and out of the subdivision. And from 98 and Breakers to the beginning of Long Landing is 1.5 miles. So getting emergency vehicles in and out, or if we have to evacuate during some type of emergency like a hurricane, it's going to be a lot of congestion to get that. The other is the pedestrian and vehicle interface that is occurring in the neighborhood. There is looks like there's going to be sidewalks on one side of Sawbuck, which will get back to this development, but there is not sidewalks all the way down Log Landing. There's partial, but there's houses that have already been constructed and landscaped on that same side that there's not sidewalks for. So it forces pedestrians, bikes, strollers into the roadway and away from that. So I don't think that that's been adequately addressed. And the other thing is just the lack of traffic calming techniques that have been incorporated into the design of the neighborhood. It's been very limited, and would encourage that the board look into requesting that more of that be done. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would you like to address those, David?
No, emergency services has been part of the review of the PUD, which we're developing a phase of the PUD, which does show, the proposed entrances and the connections to US Highway 98. So, and I know phase, I think Mr. Grady, if I understand, lives in the Stillwater phase, which is a road that's being extended up into Watersound Origins Phase 5. So that'll provide additional interconnectivity where someone can go around another way to exit the development. But as far as the connections to 98, there's no proposals at this time to modify those connections. So I did want to point out those were reviewed and approved by emergency services. And as far as sidewalks, I know the developer does add sidewalks in the community at certain times, and I know there are like larger paths that are proposed in certain areas. But right now we are developing consistent with what we're required to do in the approved PUD.
Can you speak to the gaps in the sidewalk you mentioned?
I'm not familiar with the gaps, and that's something I may have to get clarification on myself, as far as maybe if there's a house under construction or a proposed home to be constructed.
Not sure. I mean, it may be that the sidewalk is to be constructed at the end of the single-family home construction.
Well, I know there's a cul-de-sac here where we're connecting, so I don't know if that, but to me, from a development perspective, you don't want to build the sidewalk with the infrastructure, come and build the homes, and then have to build the sidewalk a second time. So I could see if a gap is in there where there aren't homes, that could potentially be the reason for the gap.
If you could just check on that comment and let us know.
And we certainly respect his comment, and we'll certainly look into that.
Certainly making sure that we got adequate pedestrian facilities is part of St. Joe's entire mantra about making it easy for their residents to move around. And it's certainly in keeping with our comprehensive plan and development code to promote pedestrian access. So if you can find out about that and let us know.
Absolutely, and for the record, and then I'll sit down, I know the county wants a safe development, so do we. So we will ensure that it's safe as well. So I'll definitely check into that, and I'll be back in touch with you.
Thanks, sir. Do we have anyone else that wishes to make a comment? See no additional hands up. See no additional hands. Renee, do we have a recommended motion?
Recommended motion would be move this forward to the planning commission once all comments have been satisfied.
Thank you, Renee. We have a recommended motion from staff. Do we have a motion at the dais?
Motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is conditionally approved to move forward to the next stage in the review process at the Planning Commission, subject to satisfaction of any outstanding comments. And this will move us to item number 19, Origins Restaurant, a minor development review by Renee Bradley. If you can introduce it for us, Renee.
Yes, sir. This is a minor development order application submitted by McNeil Carroll Engineering Incorporated on behalf of Watersound Town Center LLC. They're requesting to construct a 5,594 square foot restaurant on 1.87 acres with a future land use and zoning of Bay Walton Sector Plan Town Center, and this is located in District 1 and is identified by the parcel IDs in your packet. Tim Brown has reviewed this for DRB comments. We've met with the architect in reference to what outstanding comments was there, and so they're working through those. Didn't seem to be anything that would hold them up. It was my understanding it may be that they may need to ask for a deviation at the DRB on some colors. We have minor comments. I have two comments on planning, public works. Didn't have any comments on engineering, however, did have some questions on the traffic. Floodplain management has a comment. Other than that, just our basically our boilerplate conditions, including the one for wetlands. That's all we have, and unless you have questions for me, I'll turn it over to the applicant.
Thank you, Renee. We can hear from the applicant.
Morning, Robert Carroll, McNeil Carroll Engineering. I'm just here to answer any questions. There are a couple of very minor comments that we're addressing. Noted them tomorrow. We just respectfully request approval.
Thanks, sir. Anyone have any comments for Mr. Carroll?
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. This is a minor development. And so we will take the opportunity to open a public hearing. It will give one at the Design Review Board also as that next step, but we'll take that opportunity right now. Anyone in the audience or anyone on Zoom wishing to make a comment about this particular application? And I'm seeing no hands up in our audience and no hands up on Zoom. So we'll close that portion of the meeting and we'll move forward with the recommended motion.
I'd like to enter staff report to the record, please.
There.
Recommended motion would be move this forward to DRB once all comments have been satisfied.
Thank you, Renee. We got a recommended motion. Do we have a motion of the dais?
So moved.
A motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is conditionally approved to move forward to development order, subject to satisfaction of any remaining outstanding comments. And that will move us to item number 20 on our agenda. That is the Winter Garden 2 of Water Sounds Origins Phase 1, Lot 197 Re-Plat. That looks like a long title for probably a very simple change.
Absolutely.
Plat application reviewed by Renee Bradley. Renee, if you can describe this one for us.
Yes, sir. This is a plat application submitted by Innerlight Engineering Corporation on behalf of Fox Reynolds Henderson and Stacy B. Henderson. They're requesting a replat existing Lot 197 to incorporate adjacent parcel for a total of .42 acres with a future land use of mixed use in a zoning district of Coastal Village 1. The property is located in District 1 and is identified by the parcel IDs in your packet. Under review of this project, staff was during the pre-application meeting, under the understanding this was part of a common area. After reviewing the existing plat, we've seen that they're adding a little bit of additional lands. Therefore, they're going to need a less than minor development order to add this small piece of additional land. There's not any major outstanding comments in which should hold this project up, but I would have to condition it that a less than minor be issued before we could go to the Board of County Commissioners for approval.
And I think given the de minimis nature of that less than minor, that's something we could do at staff level without that, with the appropriate TRC member coordination, but not requiring it to come back to this stage.
I would turn it over to the applicant if he has anything to add.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm David Smith with Innerlight Engineering, and the only comment as Renee presented was the less than minor amendment, which we agree with that condition, and we will make application and get that done. So we appreciate it.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
We'll enter the staff report into the record, and we have a recommended motion. Thank you, Renee. We have a recommended motion. Do we have a motion at the dais?
Motion is stated.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is conditionally approved to move forward to the Board of County Commissioners, subject to the conditions offered.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. That'll move us to item number 21. Prominence DRI Amendment number 2 for Grace Point. Renee, if you could introduce that major development for us.
Yes, sir. If it would please the board, I would like to do this as a DRI PUD amendment as far as the announcement goes. It's identical project, just processes requires us to do 2 projects. All right, thank you. This is a major development order application submitted by Innerlight Engineering Corporation on behalf of JS Partners Grace LLC. They're requesting to amend the existing DRI for Prominence with a density reallocation, removal of 1.79 acres, and I think that is going to be corrected to half acre. So that was an error in our ad. And a preservation buyout of 0.675 acres. These changes occur within the Grace Point of Prominence. The property has a future land use and zoning of traditional neighborhood development and is located in District 5 and is identified by the parcel IDs in your packet. As we've previously discussed on the Water Sound Plan Unit development, the half acre is what is being requested to be used as an entrance to the Water Sound Beach Club. So if we could just clarify that part first.
Okay.
Staff does have quite a number of comments on this. There's quite a bit of clarification. It's kind of a complicated project. So we're trying to work together. I've had several conversations with the engineer trying to make sure that we're clear on exactly what the intent of this project is and what they're trying to accomplish with it. From the best of my understanding, we're trying to do a commercial condominium in the future, with the commercial on bottom, residential on top. And we're also trying to convert a couple of single-family lots into a triplex, which would be across the street from the condominiums. I will let David address that. And so right now, I have like 13 comments. Public Works has 3. No code enforcement actions. Doesn't appear to be any floodplain management. Other than the preservation from the northwest property boundary of the adjacent property, we have clarified that removal of that piece was done by means of a development order, so Haley and I have worked on this together. Unless you have questions for me, sir? I'd like to enter the staff report into the record, both of them.
Thank you, both entered. Yes, there are lots of questions, but it looks like y'all are tediously working through these very, very detailed questions when we're moving a parcel out of a DRI.
Please, Board, I'll turn it over to the applicant.
It will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Renee, and good morning again. I'm David Smith with Innerlight Engineering. And as Renee presented, this is somewhat complex, but at the same time, I think the history is important here as well. Is Prominence, the PUD and the DRI, it was originally approved in 2007, and then it was amended in 2013, and that's the development plan that the developer's constructing now. So our application, we're proposing to amend the PUD and the DRI to do several things, which in the current plan that's approved in 2013, it's 650 residential units, 40,000 square feet of commercial, which the hub occupies about 30,000 square feet of commercial, and then on the master plan, there's 10,000 square feet allocated to Grace Point. And specifically, it's to the south side of Grace Point, which is way down at the far south side, close to the beach club. So as Renee mentioned, we're not asking for additional entitlement, additional density, or additional intensity. We're using what's already approved in the PUD, and we're reallocating the commercial and residential density to be in a mixed-use development up on the north side of Grace Point. I'm going to point to this. It's a lot easier to see it than me to try to explain it. Is our belief is the commercial makes more sense to be closer to County Road 30A, so we don't have delivery vehicles coming through the residential portion of Grace Point to the south side, and waste management vehicles for trash removal. And also, as Renee mentioned, these are currently 2 lots, residential lots. We're proposing to do 3 single-family attached lots, and it's not going to be a triplex that D.R. Horton has constructed on the north. These will be 3 single-family attached homes that will be located on these 3 lots, where there's currently 2 single-family homes. The third thing we're doing is down here. These are lots 6 and 7. These are 2 single-family lots currently. We're proposing to make that 1 large lot. So there's a lot being removed here, a lot being added there, and then 13 condominiums with 10,000 square feet of commercial to be located on the northern portion of Grace Point. There'll be a minor modification to the drive here, which we'll show in the future on the technical development order submittal. And then I did want to point out, this is the part that's being added to the Watersound PUD that was, I believe it was agenda item 17. It's that part here up in the northwest corner. So that's totally independent of what we're doing. And again, you know, for the record, we're not adding anything. We're just simply reallocating what was already approved in Prominence, originally 2007, and then was also in the amendment for 2013. We had 2 community meetings. We had one Monday evening with the Grace Point Homeowners Association. We had a good turnout. It was a good meeting. We also sent a mail out to everyone in Prominence, and people right around Prominence. It was about 700 letters we sent out, and we had that community meeting last night at 4 o'clock. So again, we had a good turnout, all good comments, and frozen.
Yeah, let's take just a moment here for, see if we can resolve the technical difficulty. If you'll bear with us. Think we're okay now? Well, we're not sure about our Zoom participation and, yeah, given certainly the description of the robust public participation on the applicant side, I expect, as Renee suggests, we'll have somebody that would like to speak. So we can take about a 5-minute technical break here and try to come back right at 11 o'clock, providing our technology will support that. We're going to take a brief recess until 11 o'clock.
Hey, see you.
Midair. When I spoke to the wrong one. I was wondering about that. I know. I thought it was. Oh, with Dave, I could talk to Dave later. I got confused.
I
'cause
skipped the
had
whole
two
page.
sets of-
Okay.
Yeah, pretty nice.
We're back online. Karen, you ready? Rachel? If we can come back to order for the Walton County Technical Review Committee. Apologize for that brief technical difficulty, but hopefully we've gotten the Zoom issue resolved. We're on item number 21 on our agenda this morning, the DRI Amendment for number 2 for Grace Point. This is a major development, and then it's going to get public hearings before the Planning Commission and Board of County Commissioners. And I think we had just concluded the presentation from David.
I was almost finished. I was just going to add a few other things.
Like to continue?
If I
Sure.
could, please. I'm just trying to remember where I stopped. I wanted to point to the blow-up here of the northern part of Grace Point. So these would be the 3 mixed-use buildings. These would be condominiums with parking located below the building. And building 1 would be the mixed-use building with condominium and restaurant, and then there's a pool facility that's located on the roof. in the community meetings, one of the main concerns was we are adding a gate to separate the mixed-use component of Grace Point from the residential component. And the concerns that were raised were it was the location of the gate, which we agreed in the community meetings, we're going to evaluate a different location for that gate. We don't exactly have it worked out yet, but we did want to try to move that gate further away from these two single-family homes. And that's something that we did commit to do, and I wanted to bring up in this meeting as well. The developer, his name's Jason Benedict. His representative, Stephen Counts, is also here with me in the audience, if you guys have any questions. But in closing, I want to point out that Grace Point. So this is going to be a very nice, good, quality development. I want to reassure the people who live in Grace Point. Jason also lives in Grace Point with his family. So he doesn't want to do anything that obviously would impact Grace Point in a negative way. So he's also a resident that's going to live there who's actually developing the northern parts. I just want to add that so you guys would know that. And to Renee's comments, there are several, but a lot of these, Renee, we've interacted with and addressed verbally. I know we need to provide the information to her. So a lot of these we've worked through verbally. So I don't, to me, see anything that's overly complex that we can't address. The engineering comments, I know we need to provide a little more information on traffic, but to me it looks minor. We can turn these around very quickly, and all the other comments look minor to me as well. So I would respectfully request the opportunity to speak after the audience or members of Zoom speak, please, and then we would respectfully request to move forward, please, to the Planning Commission meeting.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
We have received some written public comments that have been entered into the record. We'll take the opportunity to invite any public comment related to this particular major development application. It will get a full public hearing opportunity at both the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners. But we'll entertain any technical questions or technical comments at this time. Is there anyone in the room or on Zoom that wishes to make a comment about the Prominence DRI Amendment number 2 for Grace Point? Seeing no hands in our room here, and I see a couple of hands on Zoom. We'll start with Jerry Carlton. Can you hear us, sir?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me as well?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Thank you, and I appreciate the updates from David and appreciate the acknowledgement that the fence placement or the gate placement would be a problem. So that being resolved would be a major concern of ours, and we would request that that does be resolved before anything could proceed, because there is quite a bottleneck there with how things have been drawn up. Currently, the Grace Point community enjoys 3 gates out on 30A. There's an incoming gate, an outgoing gate, and a pedestrian gate. And the place where the gate is being proposed to be relocated doesn't have that much space. So we're curious how the 3 gates could be condensed down to 1. And if it is condensed down to 1, what that does to emergency services vehicles, to even commercial vehicles and garbage, and what that would do to traffic and congestion. And because this is a community of families worried about the safety if we create a big traffic jam there at the gate. You know, we live in lot 33 at 84 Grace Point Way and have 2 young girls, and they enjoy to bike and enjoy the safety of the neighborhood now. So we're just concerned if that safety gets changed in any way.
Thanks, sir. Next up is Mr. Kevin Kern. Can you hear us, Kevin?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Can hear you.
Thank you.
You're up.
Thank you very much. I just want to comment that the plan as presented from our standpoint as a homeowner is not acceptable. It is a significant change, although you're only reallocating certain components. The fact that you're reallocating these components to the front entry and then the densification of those component items at the front gate creates an undue burden on the residents of Grace Point that live within the community. It's a significant change to add 30 parking spaces at our front gate to accommodate the retail. And even though it is 30, 30's not enough. I think everybody would agree that every bit of retail along 30A is deficient of parking. Acknowledging that we have the appropriate number of spaces for code, it's just not enough. People that come down, they bring multiple cars, they have golf carts, they're in and out, they're going to be turning around at our front gate, they're going to be backing up traffic, and it creates a safety issue for children. It creates a maintenance issue and a cost issue that's going to be borne by the residents. And so I would respectfully submit that this project be continued and that the developer continue to work with the Grace Point residents, who are the ones that are ultimately affected by this plan, to come up with a more suitable resolution. I think also you can see that by removing that half acre from the plan, it really forces what the developer wants to do. It crams everything up against the residential community and creates kind of it's just too dense right there. It's losing a little bit of its open feel. So I hope that we can work it out to the betterment of the whole community, but I hope that they can continue this effort to work with the Grace Point residents. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. I see no other hands up on Zoom and no other hands here in the audience. New one on Zoom. Elizabeth, can you hear us? You're up.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity to speak. In addition to the gate location and the turnaround,
Excuse me, could you state,
we also,
Elizabeth, could you state your name for the record, please? Your whole name?
yes, Elizabeth Shore.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak. In addition to the gate location and the turnaround, there were also concerns about adding an additional housing unit on Rayner. Right now, there's currently one existing house, and the plan currently calls for 2 additional single-family units. So there's lot 36, lot 37, and lot 38. And that requires 2 parking spaces per unit. This new proposal is requesting that lot 37 and 38 be combined into 3 units. And those 3 units, as Renee described as a triplex, would have a 0 easement or a 0 lot line. So they would butt up against one another, forming 1 unit so that they could fit an additional housing unit into an area where there would typically only be 2. This would require 2 more parking spaces on this road, which is already barely passable for 1 car. So on this road presently, there are only 3 houses that are built and completed, and we have significant traffic issues in this location. So to add a triplex where they are adding an additional unit and requiring more parking spaces, I think is a terrible idea, given the space that we currently have. We've brought this up with the developer and with the engineering company, and I also would like to ask that they address that issue before we move forward. Thank you for the opportunity to talk.
Thank you, ma'am. Do we have anyone else who wishes to speak? I see no other hands up on Zoom. We'll give the agent an opportunity to address those questions and comments.
Thank you, Mac. The gate location, from a technical perspective, I know the county's requirement is a minimum of 100 feet from the right-of-way of 38, which we're well beyond that. But again, we have committed, we are going to look at shifting this further away from units 33 and 36 just to get that further away from those locations. So in regard to parking, we have 33 parking spaces proposed along Grace Point Way, and then we have 22 parking spaces proposed under the buildings for buildings 2 and 3. So we do meet the parking requirements that are required in the Prominence PUD. And then lastly, we have, obviously did discuss the triplex, or I call it single-family attached product, which it'll be an individual unit on each individual platted lot that does connect to the center unit. But, you know, again, our parking, we have to provide parking, which would be 2 spaces per lot. So that would be 6 spaces that we cannot further, you know, congest or park in Rayner Lane. And those have to be able to serve our units. So we have been discussing these with the community. So Ms. Elizabeth is correct. We did discuss these, and we've committed to move the gate. But one thing I would like to respectfully ask is, from a technical perspective, is, Renee, the comments are minor. We have some work to do on the resubmittal, but we would like to commit, because one of the questions we also received in the community meeting is, when you revise the gate or you make minor revisions to the plan, how will we see it? We would like to commit to the Grace Point Homeowners Association to share anything we do here within the next week, and even have another follow-up community meeting so we can present our changes and what we're proposing to do, and communicate that to the Grace Point homeowners, and just be able to show them what we're proposing to do, so we continue to work through it. But from a technical perspective, we feel confident we meet the technical requirements of the County Land Development Code Comprehensive Plan, as well as the approved Prominence PUD and the DRI. So we would respectfully request to move forward to Planning Commission meeting. We will have that community meeting before we get to that point. So just wanted to share that we were willing to work with the community further. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you have of me.
Thank you, David. It looks like you may have some internal issues to resolve between your built environment and what's being proposed with those neighbors.
Yeah, and that's something we're discussing as well, you know, possible compatibility buffer in these locations. And I know these we consider the 3 single-family attached part of what we're doing, but absolutely looking at lot 36 as well. So we're willing to work with the neighbors, and we'll certainly present our ideas to them as far as what we're doing. But you know, from a technical perspective, we feel comfortable we meet the requirements of the code, comp plan, and the PUD.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Chairman, ask a question just for a point of clarity, and not to throw a curveball, but we're moving the commercial component from the beach club side, which is at the southern point of the subdivision. So was it always the intent for that commercial use to be open to the public, even though this is a gated community? Or are we now moving that commercial component to the front so we can open it to the public and isolate it from the gated community?
That was never exactly nailed down, and I've been involved in Prominence from the beginning.
Right.
The 40,000 square feet for the PUD in its entirety was always either public and or private. So my answer would be yes, it could be open to the public, but we never made it that far with that design to actually come up with a vendor or, you know, anything like that. It was modified, but the way the 40,000 square feet is allocated, it's just like the hub.
It's just like the hub. That's
yeah,
what
the
I
hub's
thought
open
too.
to the public, yeah.
Right. And so I feel like this is going to help that situation,
I agree.
because the commercial traffic could be coming to the rear of the unit. And you've already stated this, but
Absolutely.
But the gated community could potentially go away if you leave the commercial where it's originally planned to be.
That's correct. That's correct. I just wanted to be clear that we never had the design where we had
Correct.
a restaurant or something like that. But the way it's approved, not that we will, I want to be clear for our members on Zoom, it could be like the hub, be open to the public, back
Right.
at the back. So, but, you know, our goal is to have it up on 38.
Right, thank you for that.
Thank you.
We have 2 hands up on Zoom here. We'll go to Elizabeth again. Can you hear us, Elizabeth?
Yes, can you hear me? This is
Yes,
Elizabeth
ma'am.
Shore again.
Go ahead.
I just want to make it clear that it's being discussed, the commercial area is being discussed as if it's an option to have it in the rear of the property, as was depicted on one of the original drawings many years ago. But that is not even a possibility at this point, because the end of the neighborhood has already been developed. There are houses already being built. And there's no possible way to even put a commercial area at the rear of the neighborhood. The neighborhood has been gated for quite some time, so the road has always been a private road with no intention of having a commercial space at the rear of the neighborhood in any way whatsoever. Thank you.
And I'll add to what I was asking. It was shown there originally on a map, on a conceptual plan, and so the entitlement is still there. And I'm just saying that it could have been back there. This is probably the best place for it, is sort of what I was going after on that.
Yes, and I think that, I concur with that. I do recall that, as Renee does. I think this is a better location for it than further to the south. But yes, recognizing that that decision got made before those houses got built on the south end, and the changes on the south end occurred. This is just the other shoe dropping in this development. We certainly encourage the developer to work with the existing built environment in the neighborhood to come up with the most compatible modification that makes good sense for this neighborhood. But yes, I do recall that entitlement being at the other end of the street at one time. Any other questions from TRC members?
No, sir, but I believe we have two.
We got one more hand up. This will be our final technical question or comment before we close that portion of the hearing. Mr. Kern, would you like to make another comment?
Yes, just because there's an entitlement doesn't mean that it's necessarily appropriate. And I think what we're talking about is appropriateness for the community and the neighborhood. I think if you polled the 35 owners of Grace Point and said, do you want 10,000 feet of retail space at your front door that may include a restaurant with a problem with parking, I think probably a large majority would say, no, they don't. And we do have an HOA. The HOA association tends to be a moving target at Mr. Benedict's own discretion. And I asked that, if Mr. Benedict would consider continuing this, this application until there's further discussion with the neighborhood. Thank you.
Well, I think what the applicant has committed to, if I can just sort of recap what David said earlier, and I'll let David speak for himself, obviously, but they did commit to having another public meeting with the neighborhood prior to this moving to the next step at the Planning Commission. David, if you'd like to respond.
What you said, Mac, was exactly correct. We will have a follow-up community meeting with any changes we make with the Grace Point homeowners. So I know the meeting we did by Zoom, but we're absolutely willing to meet in person, and so we can go over those changes and answer any other questions. So we are fully willing to work with the owners. So yeah, what you said was correct. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. I appreciate that commitment to work with the neighbors prior to moving this forward to Planning Commission. Yes, ma'am.
I would, just for clarification, note that, this is a reallocation of density and intensity to where it's moving. The actual project is not getting approved with this process, that we have another whole process that these technical comments will be coming through. So this is not the end of the line for this by moving this forward. There is another opportunity to speak and make sure that we get this right, where the neighborhood can also have additional input. With that said, I would recommend that we move this forward based on all comments being satisfied and the developer's willingness to work with the neighborhood.
Thank you, Renee. We have a recommended motion. Do we have a motion of the dais?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to conditionally approve this item forward to the Planning Commission, subject to the applicant holding a community meeting to further discuss any proposed changes related to the plan.
both, sir, they're identical.
They are, in effect, as far as the testimony supports both of these particular applications. It's a two-stage process where we have to amend the DRI, and then we have to amend the PUD underneath the DRI consistent with the DRI amendment. So while it is two applications, the subject matter is exactly the same. It's just the two processes that have to be adhered to accomplish the same change.
I can amend my motion to include both projects. I'd like to do so if that's how you feel.
I think that would be appropriate to amend the DRI and amend the PUD consistent with the plan that has been proposed and the conditions offered. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second the amended motion.
We have a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, these two items are approved to move forward to the Planning Commission, subject to satisfaction of any outstanding comments and the condition regarding the community meeting. And again, just for clarification, these are the mechanics necessary to change the entitlements between the DRI and the PUD related to this particular application. There will be a technical application that comes back to actually approve the proposed development as it's going to sit on the ground, and will demonstrate meeting all the required components of the DRI, the PUD, the Land Development Code, and other external regulations related to that particular development. This concludes our agenda this morning. Thanks to everyone that has persevered since 8:30. We had a long agenda, but we've accomplished a lot, and thank you very much for your attendance and your participation. With that, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion? Second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.